Welcome, everybody. My name is Alexandra Tager. I am the program coordinator for WNMU Cultural Affairs, and we're very pleased to be able to bring Las Cafeteras to WNMU. It's really, really a treat. I want to thank the National Endowment for the Arts because they have helped us subsidize this program with their funding for the CARES Act. So thanks to the NEA for still being there. And with that, I just want to let everyone know this is being recorded, and I'm going to send it out to other classes and perhaps the community. So just so you all know that. All right, and with that, I cede to Margarita.
Thank you, Alexandra. So everybody in class and everybody here, so Las Cafeteras, they will have their workshop. They'll be asking you for participation, sometimes orally and sometimes in the chat. So please participate as much as you can. The more you participate, the better the workshop. All right. So thank you so much, Las Cafeteras.
What's up, y'all?
Hello.
What's up, everybody? So Denise is going to start it off. Denise, you're still on mute. You're still on mute. You're going to take it off with where you from?
I thought we're starting with our video.
Oh, snap. Bam, bam, bam. Bam, bam, bam.
Hit it, Alexandra.
Woo!
A story to tell.
Okay, now I'm awake. See, I just needed my cue, y'all. Forgive me. We are Las Cafeteras. I am Denise. We're super, super excited to be with you all today. We wish we were in Nuevo Mexico with you, but maybe next year. Changuitos. Yes. So we are Las Cafeteras. We are in the practice of sharing stories for individual healing and collective empowerment, right? We believe that telling our stories will make impacts on social movements and make social change, right? So for myself, I didn't see myself often in music. I didn't see women like me on stages. And so I am trying to create a world I never saw before, and also a world where many worlds fit. We're gonna have some interactive activities, y'all. Challenge yourself to have your lovely faces on camera. And if you can't, then that's cool. But please join us in the conversation on the chat. And hopefully later today, we'll be able to hear your voices too as we engage in this dialogue. This is a larger dialogue. We're not just sharing who we are. We wanna know who you are. And with that, I'm going to start our first activity called, Where You From? From. We hear this a lot. Everywhere we go, people want to talk to me in Spanish, which is all good because I'm doing Mexican music. However, I'm a pocha. So like I feel in Spanish, but I speak in English. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, this activity, and we want you all to engage in the chat as we answer these questions. So Las Cafeteras, we're going to share where we were born. Exactly, maybe, I don't know. If you know where you were born, the room, the hospital, if you were born in a garden, please share that. What time? How many inches? I'm just kidding. We don't need to know anything about that. The nurse, the partera, the doula, who was there? Where else? Where you were raised, your family, whoever raised you, do you know where they were born or where they were raised? Cafeteras, please share what school you went to, what you studied, what you play in the band, and also, what's your sign? We want to know what kind of energy we're dealing with here. I'm a Scorpio. No se preocupen. Don't be scared. The most beautiful part of Scorpios is that we're loyal. Just keep that in. Everyone's scared of Scorpios. I don't know why. Anyway, my name is Denise, and I'm from Southeast LA, which a lot of folks don't know. It's kind of by South Central. It's kind of by East LA. It's a little mix of both. I was born in Monterey Park, which is east of East LA. My mom is from Jalisco, Mexico, born in Sonora. That's all I know. And my dad is from Mexicali. His parents are from Zacatecas. He's really proud that he was the first one in his whole lineage. Margarita, what's up? Are you from Zacatecas? Yes. Awesome. My dad's actually never been to Zacatecas, which is really interesting. But he's the first person in his family to be born in a bona fide hospital and was taken back home by horse carriage. And so this is an interesting part of our family stories. And please, if you don't know the answer, that's totally cool. Get in the chat, y'all. Get in the chat. We want to know where you were born, where your parents or whoever took care of you or raised you was born. I think I'm going to pass it on. No, wait, you know what? Let me share what I studied. I'm actually a social worker. Before I even dreamed about doing music, I dreamed about healing communities and first healing myself. So I went to Cal State LA and I got my bachelor's in social work with an emphasis on women and children. I did a lot of casework, and then I went all the way to Chicago to the Windy City and I studied clinical social work. So I actually was a psychotherapist before I did music. And my population I worked with was with folks who were survivors and thrivers out of domestic violence situations. I really am interested in resilience and community and stories. And so that's what I do when I'm not playing music. I play the jarana, and I write, and I do zapateado, and I'm a Scorpio, like I said, and I'm gonna pass it on to Daniel.
Hey, can we give some snaps for D Nice there? She likes it when people give her snaps. My name is Daniel Joel Jesus French. I was born by a river. No, I'm just playing. I was born in Monterey Park at Garfield Medical Center, the same hospital as Denise. My mom was born in County Medical here in Los Angeles. My dad was born at Eglin Air Force Base during a hurricane. It's right there on the panhandle of near Pensacola, Florida. And let's see, I studied sociology. I really like groups of people, and I'm always curious why certain people click. And then I went back to school. I got my master's in fine arts, also known as master's in student debt. And I studied community art. I studied how art can instigate dialogue and change in a community. And I'm an Aquarius. I was born in January, and my family also, we got a lot of history in Carlsbad, New Mexico. So shout out to New Mexico and the Galindos out there. I'm gonna pass it to my boy Hector Flores.
What's up, everybody? I was born in a little barrio in East LA called Cefeteras, in a hospital called Santa Marta. I was born at 5 p.m. in the afternoon. My mama's from Morelia, Michoacan, Mexico. And my dad's from a little pueblo right under Arizona, right under Yuma, Arizona, called San Luis Rio Colorado. I went to Cal State University, Long Beach, and I got my degree in Chicano Studies and Sociology. So I see everybody. I see a lot of things in the chat, which is super dope. Everybody, thank you for participating. If you're not written your name, where you were born, and your family, please do so. Just share what you know, because you can't share what you don't. So it's real easy. But I see like Texas up in here, New Mex. I see what else? We got the DR in the house.
In
Beautiful.
what? I live in
Utah. We got LA, Inglewood, Gallops. We got Minnesota. Most definitely, yo. Guanajuato. I love it. I love it. Tierra de los Momias. I love it. So when you see this list, what does it tell you about who's in the room? Write it in the chat. I want you to write in the chat. What do you like? What does that tell you when you read this list? What do you think is coming out of this? Yes. The D word. Diversity. Right? The D word, culture. It's a small world after all. There's a saying, French, if you could write this in there, the same saying we say across the country, because we do this work across not only the US, but Canada and around the world. But we say we're all the same because we're all different. We're all the same because we're all different. It's all about perspective, right? So when you meet somebody else, you can think like, damn, they so different than me, right? Or you can think like, we actually we have family that's migrated, that's moved a lot. We both here at college together. That means we both had this similar experience that we want to participate in higher education, right? Like there's a lot of similarities or there's a lot of differences, right? And so the stories that make up our lives are super, super important. So that's kind of the crux of what we do. And I want to make sure we share that with everybody. So I'm going to give you 2 stories and then we're going to move on just to create a foundation for this conversation. Anybody seen the movie Coco? Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you've seen Coco. Hell yeah. If you have not seen Coco, please do it tonight. You will fail this class if you do not see Coco tonight. I just want to put it out there. Me and the professor like this. You know what I'm saying? Oh, anybody see Game of Thrones? Raise your hand if you saw Game of Thrones. Amy, gracias.
Amy's down. Amy's down.
Amy, all right, Cisneros. Yeah, all right. Okay. Here's a question. I want you to write it in the chat. Okay? The first person to get their answer right gets a free churro at Costco. Okay? Here we go. This is not a trick question. Whether you saw Coco or Game of Thrones, what is the ultimate death? Write it in the chat. What is the ultimate death? Come on. Churro's getting warm. Remember Coco. What's the moral of the story in Coco? Death of your family traditions, dying with regret, and almost there. Almost there.
Go for it, everybody. You got
Berta.
it.
All right. Berta to the rescue.
Loteria!
Hey, órale. Loteria.
I was getting worried.
I like that. Remember in Coco, it's really about Day of the Dead as a celebration of our ancestors, remembering who we are, right? And that the ultimate death, right? Yeah, ultimate death. That's dope.
I know.
Jordan, thank you very much for chiming in. The ultimate death is being forgotten. When your family forgets you are, doesn't say your name, that's being forgotten. Okay, question number 2. How do you get forgotten? This is not a trick question. This is, how does someone get forgotten? Write it in the chat. How do you get forgotten? Your memory is not passed down. Yes. No one talks about them in stories. Yes. By not speaking up, kind of. You unfollow their IG. Yes, you will be forgotten. Yes. Okay. No legacy left. Halfway there. It's really about your memory not being passed down, right? So we know what happened 400 years ago because they passed down stories. People who didn't know how to read or write were able to pass down stories. They didn't have IG, they didn't have Twitter, TikTok, right? They were able to share their stories and pass down their histories through food, through culture, through music. That's how we know about our past, right? If you don't know where you were born, the hospital, the time, you know, the city, who's going to tell your story 7 generations from now? If you don't know where your mama from, the time, the hospital, the city, the place, who's going to tell your mama's story? Your grandma's story, right? We've kind of lost that a little bit in this time, right? And I want to share and uplift that all cultures, every culture has used stories as a way to preserve who they are. Every culture, right? And so this workshop is called A People's History of Music in the United States. And so there was a workshop we used to do before COVID, and now there's a workshop that we do now because things are changing, right? Change is inevitable. Growth is not. And so, you know, for us, we are part of a legacy of artists who have used music to create change. So, let me ask you a question. If artists are storytellers, well, before that, let me back it up. Music is made up of stories, and stories are made up of experiences, right? Let me repeat that. Music is made up of stories. Stories are made up of experiences, right? So artists are storytellers. Can you share some of the artists you listen that are out there today that are telling their story? Put it in the chat. Who's an artist right now that you feel like is sharing their story? You got the Billy, Paul McCartney still out there. Who's an artist right now that's sharing their story? Let's put musical artists. Let's be focused. Let me who Kanye is sharing a lot right now. Yes, he is. He is sharing a lot right now. What musical artists right now are telling their story? That you're feeling. That be like, man, I like what they're feeling. Oh, The Weeknd. I was. Demi Lovato, yes, I see her on IG all the time sharing. Okay, next question. Who are artists from the past that you feel were storytellers speaking to the times? When you think about artists in the past who were using music and stories as a way to preserve. All right. Uncle Bob, Eminemskis, Billie Holiday. All right, Fiji. I don't know Fiji. Los Beatles. Yeah. Joni Mitchell. Thank you, Roger, coming out of left field. All right, Joni. So, Las Cafeteras, Buffy St. Marie. Oh, Frenchie, that was you. I'm like, oh, Buffy. I was going to tell you, Frenchie. Nah, that was you. Las Cafeteras, we are part of a legacy of artists who use stories, right, to uplift folks, to remind each other how similar we are. Before COVID, we were supposed to be on tour. And then all that got canceled. And then BLM popped off, the emergence of Black Lives Matter movement. And we really understood our role. Like Kano, one of our drummer who's not on here, he said this quote one time. He said, when we were in COVID, in quarantine, he said, when you can't go out, you got to go in. Man, that really stuck with me. And I think about that a lot. And for us as artists, we had to really understand, like, what is my role right now? And I think everybody on this chat, everybody on the Zoom, everybody had to actually go in and actually ask themselves, like, who am I right now when I can't go out? Like, who am I? What makes me happy? Like, what am I passionate about? Am I where I want to be? all those questions we had to tackle. And for Cafeteras, we had to ask ourselves the same thing. Who are we if we're not touring? Who are we if we're not out and about at concerts? And we realized that to be an artist isn't to be on tour. To be an artist was to create, and you don't have to be on tour for that. So everything about us shifted, and we understood we actually have a purpose in the world at this time. Just like many of y'all, your calling is teaching, right? Your calling as educators. You have a purpose, and it's up to you to understand that. And we want to share through our work, for y'all to reflect about your own work. So I'm going to pass it on to Frenchie, who's going to talk about the first video we want to share that was part of our journey into really understanding our role at this moment.
Yeah, so like Hector said, he was talking about our drummer, Jose Cano, and you know, a lot of things have happened this summer. One of which, well, really in the beginning part of the year in February, this man named Ahmaud Arbery was running in his own neighborhood in Georgia, in South Georgia. Black man, 25 years old, out there getting his resilience on, getting his health on. Like I do, like others in this band do. We exercise or we run, and he was deemed suspicious by essentially his neighbors, white neighbors, and they shot him to death. They killed him in cold blood, because they had a story in their mind that he was a threat, that he was dangerous to them. The irony being that, of course, he was running and unarmed, and they had guns, right? And so there was a lot of concern and a lot of noise raised around this case because there was this like giant gap. They took forever to even try to charge the men who killed him. And so people were doing this thing called Run with Ahmaud, right? There was a whole day where people were like running and then posting like a I Run with Ahmaud or a Run with Ahmaud hashtag. And so our drummer, he said, you know, like, I got to do something about this. Like, I just had to do something. And so he got together with a friend of ours who's a dancer and a poet, Jasmine Stanley. She got her dance company together, Contratiempo, and spit this poem over this beat that our drummer made. And we'll play the video and we can talk more about it from there. It's called Run with Ahmaud.
We ran to be free. We ran to heal. We ran to live. We are free. We understand our worth and our value. I have the right to play in a park. I have the right to drive. I have the right to breathe. I have the right to wear a hoodie with Skittles hanging out my back pocket, bend over to tie my shoelaces and not get killed. I have the right to go for a run in my neighborhood and not get killed because my life matters. We run to make you see us. You can't break us that easily, you see, because we've been running for generations, becoming scholars, leaders, healthcare workers, entrepreneurs, becoming athletes, artists, educators, change makers. We are love, and we won't stop. We will continue to live and embody all that we were born to be. And so we keep dancing, we keep singing, we keep chanting, we keep marching, writing, praying, fighting, running until we win. And we will win.
So before anything, we'd love for folks, just as you just see this, is there anything from the video that like popped out at you that you remember? Like, we could put in the chat. What's the one thing that you resonated with? Was there a slogan, a sign, or something that that you felt?
Can I say something or do I need to
Oh,
type?
no. Yes, yes. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you. I think what resonated with me the most was the woman who was sitting with her son in a stroller, you know, and just being a parent, like I don't have to worry about that with my two white children, but like I can just imagine the fear that, you know, someone else would have to feel for their children because of the color of their skin. And it's just, it's really, it's upsetting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Katie. Gracias.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? And yes, unmute yourself if you would like to share.
Kayleen said we ran to be free. Let me ask another question. Was there anything that was hard, like difficult for you to watch in that video? Anybody feel challenged by this video? I see some nods. Anybody want to share on that? Oh, I got some stuff in the chat right here, right?
I want to share.
Please.
I'm a runner. I like running. I do competitions, and it was really hard for me to see a little girl going out of her home, just normal run. She's starting young. Could be my daughter. Could be me at my younger age. It could be me now. Could be me tomorrow. Simply because I, look different. Somebody might not like me, but how do I know? I do run on safe trails now because I'm afraid. And the distance that I run is gotten short. So I used to run more for distance and now I'm afraid. So I think it's just everything that it is happening right now that I'm afraid. I'm afraid of running. And that makes me upset.
Wow. Does anybody resonate with that? Can we get some snaps if anybody felt that? Seems like you're not alone in that, Maria. Thank you for sharing that to Guts. Can we I'd like to invite everybody right now. Can we just all take a deep breath? I think this is bringing up a lot for everybody. And so just on the count of 3, I'm just gonna have everybody wherever you're at, just breathe in deep. 1, 2, 3. You want to roll your shoulders. Just connect with your body again. When we talk about things like this, it brings up, sometimes the traumas that we've had to face in our own life, or people in our lives. And it reminds us, it resonates with things that have happened in our experience. Like Hector talked about, we're shaped by the way we see the world. And so it's good also to remember that our breath is our power, that we're still powerful in the face of all of this, that our breath is the daily reminder that we're still alive, that we still have the ability to do something, and that we still have so much to do, of course, right? Especially as men, right? I think about that a lot, what you just shared, Maria. It's our work to, I don't want to use the word police, but to stop other men from harming women, and to make it a safer community. And so that's just me just resonating with what you just said, and I appreciate that.
I think with that, I think that helps transition to the next piece, is that what this time really calls for is a time for solidarity. There's a Black Lives Matter movement right now. So right now it's about standing up for black folks, right? As a straight dude, I also understand that, like, as a person of color, Chicano, brown man, sometimes I have power, sometimes I have privilege. So, I don't identify as a female, so I got to stand up for women. I got to talk to other men. You know, as a straight dude, I got to talk to other straight folks about how to respect and be in allyship with queer folks. As an able-bodied person, I have to be conscious of that. So this next song is called Movement Time, that we did as a call to different solidarity movements. We could talk about how different we are. We could talk about how in history we've come together. So this is the next piece called Movement Time. What time is it? It's movement time. What time is it? It's movement time. Woo! Yeah. Cause we gonna hit them streets like my brothers banging beats, cause it's movement time. Movement time. We gonna hit them poles cause we out of control, cause it's movement time. Movement time. Gonna stand up for my sisters against all these misters. Movement time. Movement time. I ain't the type to fight, but I gotta do what's right, cause it's movement time. Movement time. Yo, cause the Underground Railroad also ran south, which led black folks to freedom, with Mexico right there to receive them. 1910, it was Pancho Villa and Zapata fighting for tierra, libertad y techo. Adelitas on the front line with bullets across their pecho. 1946, it was the Mendez family that fought against segregation in schools, because before that, they treated us like fools, pushing us out into gangs, wars, and drugs. Get pissed off when we become Crips and Bloods, pachucos, traviesos, hipoperas, bomberas, jaraneras in the street with a bomb-ass beat, talking about what's going on in my LA streets, yo. Woo! Cause we gonna hit them streets like my brother banging me, cause it's movement time. It's movement time. We gonna hit them poles cause they out of control, cause it's movement time. Movement time. In the 60s in Oakland, California, Black Panthers organized for answers. In New York, the Young Lords fought against wars. Stonewall Rebellion remained true for the rights of the LGBTQ aim. Down with native rights, no shame in their game. In the campus of California, it was Filipinos who first laid down the boycott, screaming in solidarity, Isang Baksak, one rise, one fall. You come for one, you come for all. You come for one, you come for all. Rah, rah. But see, today, Arizona and Alabama, they don't play. They carving out racist laws like it's made out of clay. I stand with Emmett, Trayvon, Oscar, and Bell, with my homeboy Mumia held in the cell, telling you I'd rather be blind than to stay quiet on the day when my people are hunt like prey. So I'm gonna stand right here for George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Emmett Till, and all my folks right here, cause they got a story to tell. And we gotta stand with our brothers and sisters, y'all. We gotta stand with our brothers and sisters, y'all. Same thing. I don't even want y'all to feel about it. Just either unmute yourself and say something that resonated with you, or write it in the chat. What's the one thing that caught you in that video? What's the one thing that resonated? Write it in the chat or unmute yourself and share. We want to create the space. I really want to highlight some things, is that, you know, as much as people talk about, the powers that be talk about how different we are and talk about walls and borders and things like that, man, folks have been working together for a long time. You know, people of color have been working together for a long time. You know, when we talk about desegregating the South, it was white folks who joined the black community in the South. You know, if it wasn't for white folks coming out and standing in solidarity, it would not have happened. If it, you know, do y'all know about the Mendez versus Westminster case? In 1946, you had a Puerto Rican woman, which I learned. They wanted their kid to go to the neighborhood school. it was a white only school, so the kids couldn't go. So they organized to change that law, and it was called Mendez versus Westminster in 1946. And 2 years later, it passed, right? And it desegregated schools in California. So the next year, in 1949, it allowed black students to go to white schools. Or they weren't called white schools anymore, right? Like black students can go, then it was Native American students, and then it was Asian students, and so forth. And that case led to the 1954 Brown versus Board of Education, which desegregated schools in the whole United States. And it was because of this Latino family in Westminster, California. What's dope about the Mendez family is it was in 1946. So you also had Japanese internment. Their neighbors were Japanese, and they were interned at that time. And they were sent to concentration camps. And most Japanese lost their homes, their businesses. But because they were neighbors with the Mendez folks, they took care of their Japanese neighbors' home. So when they came out of concentration camps, they had a home to go to. I feel like that story is so beautiful about, like, in the 40s, you had a family not only fought to desegregate, like their struggle desegregated California and led to the desegregation of the United States. And at the same time, they're supporting their Japanese neighbors. Like, that's allyship. When it wasn't cool, when you could get killed, when you could get ousted and blacklisted, you know? And so for us as cafeteras, if you don't learn our history or her story, we actually might be building up more walls amongst other folks than necessary, right? And so that's the work that we want to do as artists. And so the work that we want to do is we want to uplift these stories, you know? Before you start talking smack about other folks, let's talk about how they probably supported you in the past. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about that. So I want to go, we're running a little bit on time and we still got a couple more things, but this ain't the 60s no more. It's 2020. And we got an election coming up. And we still dealing with a lot of these same things. But luckily, cafeteras are just getting started. So we just dropped this jam right here called Long Time Coming. It's in solidarity of Black Lives Matter and to get out the vote. So here we go. If we could show Long Time Coming.
A change is coming. Can you feel it?
There's a time to fight, time to write, undo all the things that the devil made right. Brown man, black man, yellow man, blue. Everything I thought was true was based on a lie I learned in school. We all be from Africa. Scientists can back it up. Race is a concept created to oppress, made by the white man, so they can do this less. Take all the land and respect, colonize culture, knee on my neck. They wanna take us out, we about to get lit. You know the time is 8:46.
You know that's right. You know the time.
You know the time is 8:46.
You know that's right.
Change in the car, change in the car. We ain't gonna stop, and we ain't gonna stop.
It's been a long time coming. It's been too long. It's been a long time coming. It's been too long.
From the ancients to attainments of today's kin tenacious, we rebels raised in a stolen nation. generation, they shameless. Since the days when there was enslavement, the anguish, it don't make sense. So we can't quit with race, that's counterattacking. The heinous, racist, ignoramus, can't detain us, courageous. On a daily basis, the greatest, we say this. It's in our destiny, it awaits us. Rather be hated for being real than love for being fake. Made it this far in truth and good faith. Don't sell yourself short, we are not what they say. I know change is gonna come, let's make it work the way we can't wait on them do. Change is ours to take, each one teach one. From the cradle to the grave, with blood, sweat, and tears we have overpaid. Now it's time to collect, give me my change.
A change in the car, a change in the car. And we ain't gonna stop, and we ain't gonna stop.
It's been a long time, it's been a long time, it's been a long time coming, 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 coming. Sing it with me now, say it with me now, sing it with me. So let me hear you sing, let me hear you. So let me hear you sing, let me hear you. So let me
Just cry with me, don't die with me. Put your fist in the air and fight for me. The cops in the streets kill violently. The judges in the courts, they lie to me. Everybody in the streets just ride with me. The tears from my face fall silently. Close your eyes so we can see. Close your eyes and let's get free.
All right, y'all. Can y'all like unmute yourselves? I want to hear you. I want to hear you. Woo!
Whoa.
Yes, I am going to encourage another deep breath. I needed that. I needed to shake it out. Just so much feelings. You know, it's interesting. I think it's really interesting how we've come to this place together, right? And how it feels really heavy with emotions. I don't know if it's just me or if it's you all too, but there's just, I always watch people's reactions when they're watching our videos. And I also notice how I feel. And there's just a heaviness, right? There's a heaviness that comes with these times. And when I talked to my dad about it, he's like, you know what? It's not much different. It's not much different. You're just paying attention. And it's interesting because my understanding of freedom and liberation and movement and solidarity is so different than the people I came from, right? And in my attempt to really honor legacy and my attempt to really live through my resilience, folks have deemed me a political artist, right? Everywhere we go, Las Cafeteras, you're so political, right? And I ask, why is it political? Is it because we're poor? Is it because we're brown? Is it because our parents were immigrants and we're undocumented? Is it because you don't see people like me on the stage, right? Is it because you're finally hearing what we have to say? Right? And so it's interesting, I think, how we have to label it all, right? I've decided I don't want to live in resistance and protest all the time. I've decided I want to celebrate life, right? And with this I was going to call it a movie, with this song, Long Time Coming, right? We're really, yes, honoring the legacies of those folks that came before us that allow us to ask and demand for more, right? Not just voting, but understanding a different way of leadership, of demanding dignity for all of us, but also doing it in a way where joy doesn't have to be radical, where self-love doesn't have to be radical, right? It just is because it's our birthright, right? And this idea of in Lakesh, right? You are the other me. Solidarity is also I care about you and I have love for you, and your interest is my interest just because, right? And so we're hoping as Las Cafeteras that as we bring out and share and honor our stories, that you all also feel invited to acknowledge the power that you all have to share your stories and how that informs the next generation and how that really makes an impact where other people feel seen and heard. And we hopefully can heal, right? There's a lot of healing to do, right? And there's a lot of heaviness, but also there's a lot of beauty and celebration, right? And I feel like that's our invitation with Las Cafeteras. And so I saw some of y'all like, feeling the beat. I saw some of you kind of like listening to what was being said. We always love to hear what you have to say, right? I can imagine what you're thinking, but if you add it in the chat, anything that was evoked, any feelings, maybe you're not thinking, right? But maybe you're just feeling, right? I have a feeling when I watch this video. I have a feeling that comes up when I hear you say these words. And that's valid too, because our bodies are also storytellers, right? We often privilege the mind and the words that are said, but our bodies are also telling us a lot. And so we just wanted to, uplift that as well and name that we are all fighters and we're all powerful and we're all in our resilience. And I really like talking about resilience. My bandmates will tell you, but it's because I've been talking about protest and resistance and pain and trauma for too long. And I'm ready to shift, right? And I'm ready to see the world shift. And so I'm inviting you all to kind of get in that onda with me. I think are we gonna do some freestyling? I think we're ready. I would love to hear from you all because I think we've been doing a lot of talking, but I would love to hear those stories come out. What do you think, Hector?
Eso. Okay, so check this out. Kind of like Denise was talking, right? Like, there's a lot going on in the world, and Berta agrees. There's the layers that we're experiencing right now. There's a lot going on, and sometimes you walk outside, you have a plan, and then 2020 just comes in, right? And so you got to think on your feet. You got to improvise. You gotta make it work. You got to hustle it and flip it, and make it work to your benefit. So what we're gonna do right now is I'm gonna freestyle. I'm gonna improvise, just like we're all doing in our daily lives. And I'm gonna ask you to. I'm trying to think of like the right prompt. Maybe D-Nice, you can help me think of like what's one prompt, or Hector, that we want to throw people to the room to freestyle about.
I think today we're talking about a people's history of music in the United States. Mm-hmm. When people were authentic with their story and their truth, man, that it inspired thousands of people. That's why we still listen to those in the past. So I think about my story, and I want you to think about your story. Right? Everyone is an artist. Everyone's a storyteller. It's whether you acknowledge it or not. That's really the difference. So in this space, I want you to acknowledge it, and I want you to share one thing in the chat. One thing in the chat is like, if you were to share your story, what's the one thing, like your powerful story, what's the one thing you would want people to know about who you are that you don't think people know? Mm-hmm. What is it, the one thing that you want people to know about you, and you want to put that in the world?
Okay. Okay.
So I'm gonna
start it out.
I'm gonna run out of stamina because I'm like an automatopoeia, a word that goes on because I wanna be freer, and like I got to be free, like the river, like the Pecos River running through New Mexico. I got to be like water flowing like Bruce Lee. I got nunchucks and I'm rocking like Chun-Li. I'm ready for the street fight. I rock it all night. I roll with William and Margarita through the street lights. We got Ashley, Kayleen on the line. Rebecca and Katie are doing just fine with their lentes. Si de repente se ve Maria and Roger and Amy too. Margarita, we got Chris Jordan Jordan and Daisy and Alexandra on the line. D Nice is feeling fine. Jordan is feeling fresh. Hey, Deborah's got something to get off her chest. I could feel it. She's just waiting to put it in the chat. So I'm looking where the people are at. We got some people from Santa Fe, from California, the Riverside, Austin TX. That's where some people try to bless you, but then we cast down the hex and said, Vallejo, California to Minnesota, Guanajuato in the place. Ain't no place colder. Hey, we got some Capricorns, we got some Scorpions, we got some Aquarian people on the line too. From Alberta, Canada, they say, hey, orale, here we go, say go every day. So I'm pulling up the chat to see what you got to say. I'm trying to see what you got to pray. So some people say immigrants are the shit. I say that line is lit and I won't quit because we're the ones we've been waiting for. Santa Catarina opened up the door. She opened up the floor. And then we're from Hawaii, like the place where Kanaka Maoli, the people from the beat when it changes to a different mood. Yo, we freestyle with you and you. Yeah, my mom raised my sister and I on her own for years, and I raised my daughter on my own for years. It's like a cycle, but we get better with years and time, like a fine wine. Stories intertwine like a vine. I'm trying to think back when I was with my tia on the border. Right there in Carlsbad, things were out of order. We used to pick pecans. She sent me home with green chili. That shit was nice and made my life willy-nilly oh so beautiful. Some people got so many stories on the line. I see Kayleen got something to say. I'm a teen mom who thought I would not be okay, would not make it to college someday, but here I am, so beautiful and glorious. My daughters are my motivation in my world. Some little girls and little boys and little toys. For every people got to make a noise. So everybody, time to flex your imagination. We're digging up hella inspiration and motivation and dedication too. I hope everybody in the house votes to register. The more I learn, the less I realize I know. The more I learn to work out, the more I have to grow. It's like a wise man said. I forgot what he said, so I'll just keep on freestyling, nodding my head. And if you're in the place feeling good, just nod your head. I said, if you're in the place feeling good, just nod your head. Nod your head. Nod your head. So I want to ask you, if you were president, what would you do? It's election season, so I'm looking at you. The power's in the people. It's in your hands. Put it in the chat so we could clap it like Aqua Sands or Aquanet. You could spray it, keep your hair in place and keep your braids for days. And then, yo, we braiding up like corn. If I was William, I would sound the horn and the alarm so I could tear down the walls. Stand in solidarity with brothers and sisters who call against oppression, yo. This is the lesson, and we want founderies, we want fresh jobs, and we want no boundaries. Yeah, we would bewitch all the guns away, cast a spell and make them disappear. Say, hey, we want some people to be homeful, hopeful, and homeful, not homeless. I detail my car so it can get less trash on the floor. We can elevate our stories for more. Elevate our stories for more. Yeah, we should finally pour some money into our education. Yeah, because that's a demonstration. We need to pay teachers like the players in the NBA, I say so. That's all we have to say right now. I'm so grateful that y'all put in some words. Yeah, how are you feeling right now? How's everybody feeling?
Hey, out of the way, Frenchie. Out of the way, Frenchie.
How do you do
the
that?
beat. I thought you were gonna drop that beat.
What beat? Which beat?
That was good. That was good, man. That was flat. I haven't heard you do that in a minute. That was dope.
Yeah, that's a skill for sure.
Hey.
I'd be like, what?
That's all, folks.
That's awesome.
Can we get some snaps for Frenchie up in the house, y'all? Can we get some snaps? Woo! That's some work right there. Put in that work.
You do what you can with what you got, y'all. And it looks like we all have really amazing, beautiful intentions for moving forward together, right? It's amazing.
All right, everybody. So we're coming to the end of the workshop. Really, I think for us, um, we we are part of a musical legacy of storytellers. We're storytellers first, we're family second, you know what I'm saying? And then we're musicians third, right? And so at the end, we want people, we live in a country with so many folks, so many stories. And if those stories were told, then we would actually get to see the colors that actually exist in this country. And we cannot, you ever like, try to draw something or paint something. Imagine you're trying to paint something and you only have like 6 colors. And then someone brought, the more colors, the better the paint, the better the picture, the better the art. Like, so for us, tell your story is fundamental. And to do that, you gotta know who you are by knowing who you were. Start excavating your family stories and then share that to the next generation. Right? And you could do that through recipes, through cooking. You could do that through photography. You could do that through movement. Denise is a dancer. She's been dancing since she was 14. You could do it through music and poetry. Right? There's so many ways to share your family story. Daniel left everything, and in 3 months he traveled across the country into Canada to find out about his family. Right? Because he was trying to find out who he is. That shit's inspiring as hell. So to know who you are, you got to know who you were. Because to know where you're going, you got to know where you're at. It's all connected. It's all connected. You know what I'm saying? And so we wish you well on your journey as storytellers. You ain't got to be an artist to be a storyteller, right? But in your family, you have a role to play. And in quarantine, we've all had to look in to be like, who am I? What is my role? What am I supposed to do right now? Why am I getting a college education? Is this just to get money? Or is it about being an elevated person and building my consciousness so I can be a tool and a reference point and a support system for my family to grow and learn, right? Like, what is the real purpose here? And so I wish you well on your journey. As educators, I want to thank the professors for allowing us to come in and share our story and our role as artists. We look to those who came before us. Like Richie Valens at 17 years old sang a song in Spanish, right? And it wasn't supposed to be done. And now it's one of the most famous songs all over the world. And that was before the power movements, before MLK and Malcolm X, before Brown is Beautiful, a 17-year-old kid who came from campesinos wanted to sing a song in Spanish because that's what his mama spoke. And it changed the game, right? That's it. He was connected. And that fool didn't even speak Spanish. Richie Valens didn't even speak Spanish.
Welcome to Las Cafeteras. We do have a question up here, and we do have some minutes, I think a couple minutes. If y'all have any questions for us that we didn't cover, Rebecca asked, how did y'all get started doing this and sharing your stories? It's been a long time, y'all. We've been like, 15 years? 12 years?
1982, I came out of my mama, 5 p.m.
Yeah, so as Las Cafeteras, a lot of us, we met doing movement work. So doing community organizing, being in marches, doing just cultural work during our college years, which was, what was that? I started college in 99. So like early 2000s, right? I was looking at that video. I'm like, oh, we look young. How many shades of pink can I have? Like all my hair, all my pinks were showing. But we've been doing this. We started playing music as a hobby, son jarocho music, in a community center called the Eastside Cafe, which Jose the drummer and myself were part of a large cohort of founding members, really looking to build spaces in our communities that elevated and celebrated the skills that we had, and the beauty of our cultura, and really looking to the Zapatistas of Chiapas, Mexico, who were a group of folks who did not feel seen or respected by the Mexican government, and so took to the jungles and said, we will self-govern and we will make our own rules to on our terms, right? And so looking to the spirit of autonomy, each one teach one, of self-sustainability, looking to the spirit and looking within the community rather than being codependent on governmental forces to fund our living situation in a way that didn't feel dignified. And so in the spirit of that, folks were coming in and teaching English classes, doing Alcoholics Anonymous classes, doing murals, doing musical events, right? When this wasn't what we really saw in our communities. And so one of our friends played this music and said, this is Afro-Mexican music from Veracruz. And for me, who, I'm a Pocha, Mexican American, Chicana, I never even knew that there was Black Mexico roots, right? And so again, start digging, what are the things that we never learned about? I started playing this music, jarocho, I had never sang before, right? And so in that, we started sharing our stories in Spanish. And then we're like, you know what? First of all, I can't even pronounce this word. Second, we're talking about all these like animals that are in Mexico, but I'm from LA, right? So people are talking about ghetto birds, right? Helicopters is what I see. We started infusing these stories in our music, and this is what we snowballed to be. And so Las Cafeteras, who you see now, was not even a dream or a vision when I started playing music with my friends, right? And so that's why we say we're friends, we're family, because we've been doing this for a really long time, for like 12 years. And the beauty of it is people feel the connection, right? It's not super deeply, amazingly, oh my God, kind of music, but what it is honest and authentic. And who we are comes out, and we invite people to play with us and dance and shout and cry and feel all the feels, right? And I think that's why we are where we are now, because people need that connection. And so I'm very grateful that we're able to do that. We don't know how long it'll be, right? We don't know the life of Las Cafeteras, but that's the gist of it all.
That's the short story.
And that's a short story, y'all, because I got a lot to say.
Alexandra asked, how did you personally shed self-consciousness and find the courage to share your voices? Hector, what do you think about that?
Like Tupac said, all movements are done by the youth, right? Like, cause youth, not to be vulgar, but like, as they say, youth, like, they don't give a fuck, right? Like, young people are ready to like change the world. And once you get older, you have a house, you got kids, you got like responsibilities, but young people, they ain't got that. All they got is ganas and dreams and hopes. And we were young, we were 21, 22, 23, and we were ready to change the world. And that's kind of what, for us, like, we didn't really care back then. We didn't really care about a lot of stuff. Like, we didn't care about people telling us no, it's like, yo, you can't sing. I don't care, I'm gonna sing. You can't be a band. We're creating a band. Like, we were just young and like ready to do everything. And now we're older and we're like, man, I don't know if I do that now. So I think like it was really this I think at the time it was like this youthful energy that we had. And I even feel like, now it's a little bit different as we're older. But I think that's kind of what it was. And I try to like remember how we were when we were 22 years old and the fearlessness that we had, just to like be like, we're going to leave everything because we believe that, we could change the world. And this is how we felt we could do it. And we still here. But I get up to the youth, that youth spirit. And like, age ain't, what does they say? Age ain't nothing but a number. Like, how old would you be if age wasn't a thing? Right? If age wasn't a number, how old would you be? And so like at the end of the day, that's for everybody else to answer. I know how old I would be. It's not 38. Tell you that right now.
I'm 39 and I'm gonna stick to that age.
Oh!
In 2 weeks I'll be 39, and you know what? I earned those years, okay? So I'm never gonna lie about my age. Somebody said, how do you learn about En La Kesh? You are the other me, I am the other you. A lot of this was for myself, I have an older sister. She's about 5 years older, and she was also very involved in understanding what it meant to be Chicana, Mexican American, but with a conscious understanding of oppression, marginalization, and lack of power as folks that came from immigrants from Mexico and undocumented families. And so Chicana is almost is a word that was utilized to diminish and to really put us down, as is the word pocha, which is a word that my parents often used to describe us when we weren't being Mexican enough, when we didn't speak Spanish well enough, when we didn't really understand the nuances of being Mexican. And so being a pocha was like, you're not good enough, basically. And I was always very embarrassed, right? I was embarrassed to be Mexican, and then I was embarrassed to not be Mexican enough. And then I went to grad school, and I was often the only person of color in my class. So it was always this cloud of shame, right? And so this word Chicana, and even now where I say pocha power, it's a reclaiming of words that were meant to hurt me and people like me. And so a lot of what I do is reclaiming words, reclaiming space, right? Reclaiming sensuality and body and sexuality, because I'll no longer use myself to hurt myself, right? And I'm unlearning these ideas. In Lakesh was something that I learned in high school in Chicano studies class, understanding that Mexican culture is also very Eurocentric. And so in my family teaching my culture, they also have lost their own indigenous ways and roots. And so a lot of just events in my communities had a lot of ceremony in it and had a lot of teachings that were very in touch with indigenous practices and indigenous words and lingo. And so I am not a scholar, and I am not a very learned in the words and in the languages that that were native to Mexico, but I have the trickle of it, right? And I have an understanding of it. And my grandparents, my grandfather's birth certificate says he is Spanish and he is Indio. And we asked my dad, what kind of Indio are we? What kind of indigenous peoples are we? Who do we come from? And he said, I asked my dad, and he said, we are just Mexican. We've lost so much, right? The nationalism is not just in the US, it's also in Mexico. And so in the practice of shedding and unlearning and reconstructing a more powerful self, I've had to do a lot of digging, but a lot of those things are lost. And so these are just some words that have helped me as a resource to gain myself, to gather myself again. And so I don't know the roots of a lot of it, but all I know is that it's language that I've gathered.
Thank y'all so much for having us. We're happy to join y'all for today's convo. Thanks for everyone's input and taking some risks there to share some personal stuff. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys very much. Appreciate you being here.
Órale.
Thanks so much, Hector. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Daniel. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Margarita, Berta, Alexandra, gracias.
Gracias.
Adios. Ciao.
Adios.